to Berlin, Germany, home of the LEC. Patch 11.3 has already left its mark on the competition, and we'll see what today will bring as it builds up towards an epic showdown between the two top teams. My name is Sjokz, and I am joined by Ender and LS today, and I think that you would be very hard-pressed to find two on-air personalities who have their finger on the pulse of the community more than these two. They got it all. They got the knowledge, the analysis, the memes, the narrative, the style. Isn't that true, gentlemen?
Oh my, you're just hyping us up.
Yeah.
It's almost a little bit too much. I don't know what to do. I'm shaking.
Yeah, I'm not really, I mean, Ender, I'm surprised. You said that he has his finger on his community. I'm surprised anyone would let them touch him. I mean, we saw how Dracos reacted, you know? So.
True. I mean, you don't really like each other, but that's not going to impede the analysis. If anything, that's going to make it better. So let's move on to what we saw yesterday. A lot of shakeups in the standings. At the top of the table, though, things look kind of similar. Rogue is still there, G2 is still there, Fnatic is still there. But in the middle, we saw some movement. Schalke dropped to Astralis, Excel on a 3-game winning streak. These teams are stepping up in terms of Astralis and Excel then.
Absolutely, and I think everyone was super excited to see what MagiFelix would end up bringing to the LEC. Had some pretty big shoes to fill, and his Corki did not disappoint. Everyone's going to remember this 1v2 outplay in the bottom lane. He's super fed, super farmed up on the Corki, but really, I was impressed throughout the game. It wasn't just the flashy outplays like this, it was how he moved around the map, how he worked with his jungler, things that, for a rookie player, bode very, very well for his future.
This is, of course, someone that has a lot of experience in a lot of roles. Sorry, let's go ahead. Latency, man.
No, I was just going to say, I was super impressed with the Corki, obviously, because it looked like he should have been punished in laning phase, but he managed to get out without any punishments, and then he was a driving force in the game.
I know that you don't like Corki that much necessarily, so, you know, has this changed your opinion in any type of way?
Absolutely not.
Okay, perfect. Moving on, Reckless yesterday, he practiced a lot of social distancing when he played Senna. I mean, I think almost, I don't want to say single-handedly, but the team was just doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and then Reckless just kept going.
Look, he had like upwards of 230 sacks or something insane, 250 bonus attack range, so it would be pretty hard for that champion to lose, I think, LS.
Yeah, and I think that in this game, Reckless really showed, or he highlighted what I was trying to touch on yesterday about him as being that reliable force that G2 have, where in this game, the draft, it eventually started coming to fruition, and the team comp of G2 started struggling a little bit, but Reckless's performance on Senna carried them through time and time again, and it was just relenting pressure that he was throwing out, and it was a super MVP performance.
Yeah, and I think this is something we're going to see a lot of G2, especially in the regular season, when we've seen it in G2s of past years, right? They get out to an early lead. Sometimes they are leisurely in how they close out the games, but Reckless is all business when he shows up. And just like I was saying, the consistent driving force that is always going to be the rock for G2.
Yeah, Reckless on form on G2, but his X isn't doing too shabby either. Fnatic is on form. What a performance yesterday, and I think mainly out of that Riven pick from Bwipo. Afterwards, they said it was a Riven game. It's just what it was, LS, and it's actually beautiful to watch when it does work out, this team composition.
Yeah, I thought the Riven pick slotted in really, really, really well. Bwipo found himself with a really good matchup in a really good team composition where they needed physical damage because of their surrounding champions. And Riven's a champion that gets enabled quite a lot by Seraphine, because Seraphine lets her just go in and sort of just style on everyone inside of the comp. So this is what I was referring to yesterday where I said Fnatic, they have some draft diversity. They're mixing things up with a lot of the meta picks. You had the Aurelia flex, you had Evelynn. Now we get Seraphine here in the mid lane. Riven coming out in top lane. Lilia obviously in the jungle. It's just really nice to see. And if Fnatic keep leading the charge on these, non-traditional champion picks, it's gonna continue to serve them well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point there, too, because you even look back to last year, Bwipo was the guy playing like the Rengars in the top lane, the Urgots, like champions that other people were a little bit more hesitant to try and experiment with. And I think that the consistent performances, the pop-off performances, even in losses for Fnatic, you remember like the Pantheon from earlier in the split, like this guy is having a fantastic year.
He is. Let's see if that continues today. But first, LS, aka LEC's savior, has arrived in the LEC. So please take us on a journey through the treasure that is the teachings of LS, the only right way to play the game. Ender, you can translate for the plebs at home if they
Yeah, I'm going
don't
to try and make
understand.
sure even Vedius can understand it.
Yes, and LS, why don't you start by explaining how to master the starry-eyed songstress, Seraphine?
Well, Seraphine, you're gonna definitely want to go with the Moonstaff build. Okay, Moonstaff, obviously in the game right now, you get the Moonstone Renewer, Staff of Flowing Water, and then from there you can branch off into pretty much whatever you need. I mean, you see on the screen the shields and the heals absolutely out of control on this champion. The thing about her is that she doesn't slow down at 3 items, not at 4, not at 5. She's one of the champions in the game that truly does keep going all the way up to 6 items, and her base kit is also giga oppressive. She has one of the best ultimates in the game. I don't know whose idea it was to combine Ahri's charm with Yumi's ultimate, but someone thought about it, and now we have it on Seraphine. So she's just too synergetic. She's too good in the current meta. She complements so many champions. And with the buff to Chemtech Purifier, it allows her to answer team compositions that could maybe be problematic for a brawler recomp, but she's just way too good. Mikhail's Ardent Sensor, if you have a lot of attack speed and auto attack basing champions inside of your team comp, she's just way too good.
Thank you, LS. We really appreciate it. And I think that if I've learned anything, it's that Seraphine is OP, and even if you play her in mid lane, you're a support. Build her like a support.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Next up, LS, aka Lower Screen. Torre, he joined the school of LS yesterday with
Wait,
Gragas.
LS, move cam. Move cam. Move cam.
Oh.
It's in the wrong...
Ender, it's not LCS yet.
Okay, my bad.
Ender, I need you later for that. Not right now. But yeah, no problem. Moonstone Renewer, obviously on the Gragas. He's able to proc it pretty reliably inside of the team fights. If you look at the game where this ended up being picked, he doesn't really have a value to just go Glass Cannon, but also going Glass Cannon on Gragas is harder to come by. It's more expensive. Moonstone Renewer is going to actually give you a pretty massive spike when you do end up completing it, especially just because it allows you to remain relevant with just basically one core item because of the effectiveness of the item. So Gragas is still going to have all of his utility. He's still going to have sort of a tankiness because he's healing other people in a way. So even if he's not himself super tanky, his allies are, and so that's sort of a weird mix. It's just an interesting item that you definitely have options to go into.
Right, so if you're playing a jungle champion in the support role, you still build like a support. Moonstone is everything.
Is everything, apparently. All right, moving on to a top lane pick, Shizenda's Gangplank build specifically. Is this one that you liked?
Is there a Moonstone on this too?
No.
Oh.
There's not a Moonstone. It's a blunder. It's a divine one at that. He ended up going Divine Blunderer here on Gangplank, and this strikes me as really weird. And rather than just immediately write it off, I actually reached out to a friend that lived with me for 2 years, highest rated Gangplank player on Korea. A lot of people that watch the LCS co-streams might know him as Onion God, and I reached out to him, I asked what he thought. He said that Divine Blunderer doesn't make sense here, but neither does Trinity Force because Cho'Gath can side lane well, and so because of the other targets on the enemy team, he thought you should just obviously go crit. You don't get value out of Blunderer, it's not a very good item, so going for the crit build with Essence Reaver and Immortal Shield Bow, especially on this patch where it was buffed, probably would have been a better choice. You don't need the sustain and tankiness from the Triforce build for side lane potency.
Onions are good. You like onions.
Thanks for that translation there. Finally, let's take a look at Larsen's Azir build. We're seeing Azir a lot in the meta, of course, now. And what do you think of what he whipped out yesterday?
I think that the Banshee's Veil is a really interesting item, but that's not just the part I want to talk about. Banshees did get buffed in this recent patch, and one of the things that we saw Larsen do, and this is what I mentioned about in the past, that Larsen is always looking for ways to get micro edges, and Verdant Barrier ended up getting changed. It's now basically the Seeker's Arm Guard of Control Mage versus Control Mage in mid lane. Traditionally, mages would go Seeker's Arm Guard against AD champions in mid, but now in Control Mirrors, you can actually go Verdant Barrier, and it really, really, really stifles the enemy mid laner and doesn't force you to just go Merc Treads Rush or something inside of the laning phase in order to have resistances. And then curving into Banshees as the second item, really problematic in mid games for a lot of team compositions right now.
Heed the words of LS. Please, Vedius, build magic resistance so you stop getting solo killed. Thank you.
I think that was all very good advice. Finally, we're going to take a look at a macro move, and namely, it is about Second Rift Herald.
Yeah, so this one's really interesting. Renekton just got done doing the Krug, so he starts this clip with 173 EXP, goes down into bot lane. Now, Mad Lion's already pushed the wave into mid, but they're gonna rotate into mid lane, and they're gonna share EXP on 4 champions. So this is a lot of reduced shared EXP. In doing so, Renekton's down in bot lane. Bot lane gives 105 gold on its own, 255 EXP on just that minion wave, but a cannon wave is gonna give you 170 roughly, 345 EXP, which is gonna total about 600 EXP. This is anywhere from 68 to 50% of a level at this game timer. So even though you rotate to the Herald, you get 100 gold, you get 206 experience, Renekton is invalidating the golden EXP that you're getting from the Herald itself, and then because you left him in isolation and he's not sharing EXP, he's getting higher upside on EXP, he's getting the turret plates himself, and it just doesn't make any sense. This is a giant fumble that pro teams all around the world make, where they're not losing to Boris, no, they've gone the next step. They bought a calculator from Boris, and now they're losing to the calculator that he provided them with, so not really working that much. So it might have been from the LCS. But Rogue, in the end, they ended up making up way better than Mad Lions, and it doesn't make sense either, because when you consider Mad Lions' team composition, the space advantage that is gained from getting a Rift Herald and accelerating the game is counterintuitive to their team composition.
I think I got the gist of it, but can you translate it for us plebs?
Yeah, so the second Rift Herald is a false god.
Okay.
Don't do it because math and science proves that second Herald is bad. There were a lot of numbers in there, but if I counted on my fingers well enough, it's just not worth it.
It's not just
It's a waste of time. Just farm your camps, take plates, etc.
All right. Thank you both a lot for that deep dive. You know, we don't do that too often here in the LEC. Just like I'm overtuned on analysis, so we got to get back to that narrative. Thank you, though. So we're going to talk a bit about Rogue's journey to the top, which has been nothing less than an adventure, but the final boss is still left standing. Later tonight, they get the chance to finally defeat the reigning champions in our Alienware Match of the Week.
Right now, G2 and Rogue are looking like the 2 best teams in the LEC, and this week's Match of the Week is a face-off between first and second. Can Rogue be better than G2? Can Rogue prove to the world that they are contenders for the title?
With me coming over and Trimby, they kind of made the moves that they feel are necessary to contend for the top position. I think for Rogue, the goal is to be top 2.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised with Trimby. I think especially from scrims. I didn't think he would be as good as he was. I'm just not sure how much he provides in shot calling, but that's where Odoamne steps in, which is a very big voice in every team that he's been on. So yeah, I think the Rogue lineup is like for sure a top 3 contender.
Yeah, I would say Rogue's problem last year was that they found like their recipe of success and then they never thought twice about it. Like a team of their caliber should be able to do more. So if they by any means could figure that out, I mean, they are a really good team, so kind of scary.
There goes Larson on the back. Inspired manages to get the fear down and send Perks packing. He's down. That's another kill there onto Mickey. Now they turn attention onto Wonder.
Casual 1v3.
This is insane.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding? Bro, they've got one. They're about to get their second. That's already Perks and Caps down. The dredge line will hold Mickey in place, and he's going to fall last. That's an ace for Rogue. The box comes down, and that's 5 members of Rogue caught inside. I think 3 got caught by the Pop Blossom, and it is just obliteration. All 5 members are standing toe-to-toe. Dredge line will connect, and that's a fantastic ultimate. That's already Caps blown up before he can drop his ultimate. Though, can Hugsummer find the cash-in? That's the question. He's turning attention to Jankos and to Wonder. They simply cannot do it. The initial pick worked out. Rogue are down. They put up a valiant fight, but Rogue will be defeated by G2.
I think we are like good right now, but we need to for sure become a lot better to beat G2.
G2 and Rogue are competing for the top spot. G2's aggressive and in-your-face style of gameplay is difficult for opponents to match.
And Caps is a beast, everyone knows it.
And how do you face up against it?
Well, I'm a beast as well, you know.
The mechanical god that is Larson steps up. Larson's being greedy. Rapid fire cannon immediately runs away, but there's the charm, there's the quickness, and there goes Hylissang. Larson looking to steal it, and he gets it. What can this man not do this game?
If G2 can take Rogue out of their comfort zone, play fast-paced League, they can secure victory.
They got my respect by almost beating us in a BO5, and I feel like they will be one of the toughest competitors to face in 2021.
Yes, they will be the current top team versus the reigning champions. A rematch from the summer semifinals in 2020. We had a great katana here earlier. I posted something on Twitter. He was holding a katana. I guess he figured it wouldn't be a fair fight for Larssen. If Caps
Larssen only had his fist. It was
not fair. So yeah, fantastic matchup coming up. LS, after the performance yesterday of Rogue and G2 respectively, what are you expecting out of the level of this matchup?
I'm expecting this to be really hype. I think it is a prelude to the finals later on down the road. Both of these teams are just looking so clean, so strong, so stable pretty much here in 2021 LEC. And I really think that the highlight is obviously the mid lane, but also Reckless is going to be the final boss almost for Rogue to try to take down. And how they're going to try to coordinate that is really the big question in my book. I think draft super, super important between these two teams. And I think if G2 come out of the draft a little bit behind, they can still win, but I don't feel the same way for Rogue.
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up question because I've seen a couple of G2 games where it wasn't all that clean and it wasn't all that spiffy. They still won, though. So, you know, are you expecting them to clean that up a bit going up against an opponent who is known for playing very cleanly?
All right, well, I was referring to Reckless mostly when I talked about the cleanliness because that guy is always looking pristine, 10 out of 10. And I mean, we have the mid lane matchup here between Caps and Larssen. This is obviously going to be very interesting because what type of approach are they going to take against one another? And how is G2 coming into this draft? That's a really big question. I think if G2 just draft mid-range, scaling, late-game type team composition, it's going to be a very hard mountain for Rogue to climb.
And in this mid lane matchup, it's so interesting to me because usually we see Larssen on a lot of these more scaling picks, you know, cruise through the laning phase and then demolish in the team fights. But if you look back to the past times Rogue and G2 have faced off, Larssen takes matters into his own hands. That best of 5 that went the distance last summer, he was playing Akali, and it was the solo kill matchup. Every single game hinged on who was killing who in that 1v1 in the mid lane, and I'd really like to see more of that in our match today.
I agree. I think we all do see them pull out rather the aggressive picks and play the best League of Legends because sometimes yesterday it wasn't all that. Now, Caps and Larssen, of course, they were the top 2 in the MVP voting last summer, and since we're almost done with the first half, we decided to look at some mid-season MVP candidates. So here we have a very nice selection. We talked about Reckless a lot already, so maybe let's keep it short. In a few words, why does he deserve the mid-season MVP?
Because everyone else on his team is sprinting it down. This guy is never going to have a bad performance. You look at him, like, if you look at statistics, he is by far the best player in the league already to start off the split. But really, this guy just is doing it all for G2 right now and reining them in a little bit when they get loose.
Secondly, Larssen, we said, you know, he's going up against Caps and it's going to be a great matchup, LS, but why does he deserve at this point in time perhaps the mid-season MVP? And do you think we've seen the best of Larssen yet?
I don't think we've really seen the end of Larssen by any means in terms of his skill ceiling. I think this guy just still has a lot higher to continue climbing. He's always someone that's always looking for micro edges, whether it be in champion meta picks or even in terms of small itemization things that he can do inside a laning phase. It always seems like he's always trying to min-max inside of the game. And the other thing about him is that Larssen doesn't always necessarily have to beat you with just flashy gameplay or anything like that. He's just really solid and very scary. And it reminds me of something like watching Showmaker on his rise up.
And very reliable in that mid lane. Next to him, his teammate of this year, Odoamne. The big question is, will he finally be happy? Will he be joyous in interviews? Will he get the MVP or not?
Because the sad thing is, like, Odo's having a great split, but Larssen is on his team, and Larssen's just gonna upstage him. He's a top lane, right? And Odo, like, for everything he offers Rogue, he's like the perfect top laner. Like, he doesn't require a lot of assistance in the top lane, yet he's still winning lane. He's drawing so much pressure and having huge influence over Rogue's team fights as well. So
I love that.
He's not the flashy player for the team, but again, consistency is king. And I think if you look at our 3 sort of front runners we mentioned here with Reckless, Larssen, Odo, they're all very, very consistent. And then when you look at the surrounding cast who also have had the standout performances, that's when you get a very volatile, super pop-off Whiffo.
Yeah, let's talk to me about kind of the 2 guys here on the outside. Whiffo, respectively, who, of course, is one of the flashiest players we have, and Gilius, who's been doing great for Schalke.
This is like the invert to like making a hamburger or a cheeseburger where the buns are normally the stable parts and then everything in the middle falls apart. But on this side, we got the two volatile ones at the very end. Gilius and Whippo, they can be the thing that holds the team together, and they can have those insane MVP pop-off performances that make you go, okay, that's why that person's an S-tier player. But then other times, they can do a lot of high variance things. They can flip a lot for no reason. But at the end of the day, there's still someone that you can count on to try to actually just win you the game outright from what should maybe be considered an impossible position.
I love that analogy. The burger and just the stable parts are perhaps not so for these two on the outside. Thank you so much for talking through those. Those are all our candidates from our side, at least for the LEC.
What? Sjokz. These might have been the MVP candidates, but someone's already MVP.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know why we didn't talk about him. And yes, of course, I'm referring to Chovy, who's always MVP. Sjokz.
He doesn't even play in the league.
He's an LCK. He's not even.
Hashtag Church or Chovy. Ender, not right now. I'll get back to you later. See you in the chat on LCS.
Right.
Yep, I'll go to my corner.
Take it away.
I'll allow it. In any case, in terms of our LEC mid-split MVP, the official award will, of course, still be decided after the regular season. But for this one specifically, we want to hear your opinion. Hit us up at LEC on Twitter. Tell us who you think should deserve the mid-split MVP, the mid-season MVP rather. I'm just still trying to get used to that. And we'll talk about it in the post-game lobby. We'll see all of these players in action tonight as we close out the first half of the regular season. A very important one, an anchor point really, Ender, for all of these teams who may be chasing the wins that they desperately need.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're going to see Crownshot develop a Vitality in our first game, MagiFelix on Astralis in the second one. I think for this week, that has been my primary focus before our match of the week later tonight.
Absolutely. I'm also looking forward to Excel versus Fnatic. Will this be the time that Excel can take him down? We will see. But as you said, this is Crownshot's first week on Vitality. So let's see what he had to say before taking on his old team, SK.
Thank you very much, Sjokz, and thank you, Crownshot, for joining me ahead of your game. I'm very happy to see you back in the LEC. I know that you're coming during troubled times for Vitality. It hasn't been easy for them. Tell me about you joining the team, actually, because it felt sudden from the outside.
Well, yeah, I had other plans. I was about to go to Korea with Nemesis, actually, and be there with LS and stream and play Solku pretty much. And then I just got approached by Vitality, and competing is what I love. So I just felt like I will take it, even though it might be a challenge.
Pro player in the end, and that's what matters. I'm very happy again to see you back in the LEC. But how has it been working with them during the week? Obviously, having to fit with a new team in the middle of the season must be easy, but yeah, how has it been for you?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's a bit sudden, so we've only been screaming for a few days, but I think the team morale is actually still pretty good, so I still think everything is possible, and all the players are very easy to work with.
Okay, great. And they seem all focused and wanting the best in the end. So what do you bring within this team? Can you tell me a bit more about your role? LS was mentioning the fact that you may be more vocal than some players, thanks to your experience, of course. But tell me about this.
Yeah, I mean, in SK, I was pretty much the one that was played around heavily, and I was doing most of the shot calling and decision making. So I guess they brought me in to have like a strong voice and also like new energy or like a new perspective that can sometimes help. Probably helped Schalke as well, like last year when they were having trouble.
All right. Well, I'm always impressed whenever I hear an AD carry, especially handling the short call role. But that's true. I mean, you had this role within SK. And interesting part, you will be facing SK today with Vitality. How do you think it's going to go? You've seen SK from afar, maybe, watching the LEC. How do you feel about the matchup against them today?
Well, I feel confident today, of course. I can't... of course, it's going to be fun because it's my old team. I think it's just a coincidence that I'm playing this week, but I'm confident we'll win, yeah.
Any last words you want to say before I'll let you go before the game? I know LS is also on the broadcast. He was very hyped about seeing you back on stage. But yeah, words maybe for the fans, all the people who've been waiting for your return.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very thankful. I got a lot of messages when I announced that I'm not going to be having a team. And now when I announced that I'm back in Vitality, I got a ton more messages being happy for me and congratulating me. So I'm just very thankful, yeah. And I'm going to make the fans proud.
And I hope your work shows today. Crownshot, thank you so much for the interview
Thank
and
you.
best of luck against SK today.
Thank you.
And back to you, Sjokz.
Thank you very much. What a lovely interview, and I think we speak for everyone what Laura already said. It's so great to have Crownshot back because he is a competitor, and that's what you want to do. You want to be on a team and show what you're made of. What I find quite interesting is kind of this theory crafting we had around his role in the team. And LS, he just affirmed, hey, I was doing a lot of the calling, and a lot was built around me in SK. And I was wondering if you have any thoughts, kind of from a theoretical perspective, about being a marksman and a shot caller, and how ideal or not ideal that could be.
I think it's really interesting because the only other player that comes to mind that has that is sort of deft in a way in the LCK. And obviously a lot of things get brought into influence on draft, because if the draft is being sculpted from the perspective of the marksman, I think the marksman's player's view on the game is then going to sort of reveal itself, right? And obviously we saw in the Vitality draft yesterday, all scaling, all mid-rangey type of team composition with a lot of different tools available. And I think that that really speaks to how Crowny probably wants to go about the game. He doesn't want volatility inside of the draft. He doesn't want games to just be coin flips or high variance. And it'll be interesting to see how Vitality maybe adapts to that.
You know what, Ellis, I can already see in Twitch chat, at LS Ruined Vitality. That's just, I know it's going to be there. No, I do really like a lot of the concepts they came into with the draft yesterday. And actually, in the way they even played out the game as well, I actually thought it was good for the majority of it. You know, in the early game, I thought their map movements were very good, not over-committing into, you know, fights around the Drake early on, playing for, you know, cross-map pressure. But everything fell apart when Excel decided, hey, let's start the Baron, guys, and Vitality were just caught flat-footed.
Yeah, I mean, Vitality, they found themselves between a rock and a hard place here. They discovered the Baron a little bit too late, and it's not even like Excel's team composition doesn't also have massive amounts of scaling either, because it does.
Yeah.
So this is really like Kong versus Godzilla in a way, but obviously Excel, they're on steroids at this point with the Baron, and it's just really hard for Vitality to decide what to do, because if they go for the Dragon, they can get threatened to be backdoor. But if they just seed the Dragon, they're just giving it up, then they have to deal with Baron, and then they're going to be in an impossible spot about 5 minutes down the line when both major neutrals come up again.
Exactly. I almost prefer the fact that Vitality are like, we're going to risk it all over this objective, and maybe it doesn't work. It didn't end up working, but I do like the thought process there of at least deciding this is, we're going to lose on our own terms if we are going to lose it all here. So I actually think prospects for Vitality, based on just one game alone, I don't want to jump to like too big of conclusions, but prospects do look pretty good after that game, even walking away with the loss.
Definitely only practiced together for a few days. First game, a difficult one, a challenging draft to execute, not that easy. They're up against SK today. SK yesterday, they received a bit of a shocker versus Fnatic. We talked to Treats afterwards, and he also said, this is just one of those games that you know exactly where it went wrong when the Riven got, I don't know how many kills.
I think 12 at the end of it
12
all.
at the end of it, so you just need to move on. But still, I think we're pretty hypey on this lineup, regardless.
They've had their moments, right? And I think for SK, it's about sort of weaving it all together. Because, I mean, even Blue showing up in his first game, barely almost solo kills Caps in the mid lane. And you can think about moments for each player, Tinks and his Dr. Mundo. But again, this team, we talk about consistency with our best teams and our best players. It hasn't felt like all the pieces have lined up together on the same day.
Yeah, LS, what are your thoughts about SK after yesterday, which was a difficult game, now going into this specific matchup versus Vitality?
I think that they found themselves in a really hard position in yesterday's game, and it was just really unfortunate for them. But I think going up against Vitality today, this is going to be a real sort of test of strength between both of them, in the sense that if Vitality lose this one, that's gonna be a little bit worrying. But if SK also lose this one, that could be saying a lot of things about Vitality's potential upside. But then what does that mean for SK if all of a sudden they just start falling apart?
Yeah, true. I think we are dealing with two teams that are trying to build towards something. But as we said, halfway mark of the season is here, so they really need to get going now. The clock is ticking fast for Vitality and SK. Both are in need of a win here in Game 1. Let's see.